My name's Chad. I spent a couple of decades in the Air Force. I was a pararescueman. My job was to rescue downed pilots. And then I transitioned over to special operations, where my job was to integrate with SEAL teams and SF teams and be the guy that is kind of the 911 for them and protects them and rescues them when things turn into chaos. And so I did that for a long time. Retired in 2021 as the senior enlisted of a special unit, and retired and went into industry. Yeah, it was recommended through a friend who knew some of the symptoms I was dealing with, specifically sleep issues. I spent the past decade living off of a few hours of sleep at night. That has obviously a compounding effect on health, and something that I didn't think I was going to be able to overcome. And so that was one of the things that I've struggled with for a long time, seek treatment in different modalities. And the guy I was talking to was able to wrap it up really succinctly and really eloquently, and said that basically there's these kind of underlying stresses that you're not aware of, and that even if you think that you're kind of free of symptoms, that manifest through the time when you're actually trying to get that recovery in that sleep cycle. And so, I took it at face value and said, hey, look, I'm kind of at a loss for things to try. And so this isn't a last ditch effort for me. It's hopefully something that can be impactful to my life and my health. Middle of the night wake ups are pretty obvious, right? But the question is like, what does that do to your health and your mood and all those things? Pretty clear that, irritability and all of those things can be attributed to lack of sleep. But when guys get out of the military, typically they have kind of a myriad of different things that they're working through. And so as you start to chip away at them, you realize, hey, maybe this is important, maybe this one's important. Once you remove the clutter from all of your different symptoms, whether it be operator syndrome, which is something that's coming into parlance now, PTSD, or any of the things that guys struggle with post-military, especially with a chaotic military career, it's really hard to neck down what is the problem. I'm a few years removed from the military. I'm 5 years out, and kind of just chipping away at all those things. And sleep has been one of those insidious kind of symptoms that I haven't been able to fix. And so, I desire the golden, 8 hours of sleep. If that's not achievable, building off of 2 a.m. wake ups into a 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. is measurable progress. And I hope that all the other side effects of your ability and how you respond to stress, all the things that everyone deals with, normal people deal with this all the time. But I think it's compounded with vets. It's definitely compounded within the special operations community, where guys are used to this, and the hypervigilance and all those kind of things aren't an issue for me, which is why I struggled to say, well, why am I waking up in the middle of the night? Is it endocrinology? Is it inside? Is it organs that are reaching out and saying, hey, take care of me? Once I chipped all those things off the list, this becomes maybe a viable kind of treatment modality. So time will tell. I wasn't skeptical, I was hopeful coming into it. I've already done hyperbaric therapy previously, years ago, but I did it spread out, one day here, 3 days later, I did another session, not doing the same depths. And I didn't find any reprieve from symptoms from that treatment. And so when it was recommended to, hey, look at HBOT again, I was skeptical. But coming here and realizing that there is no retreat, this is full-time work every single day, including weekends. And that, to me, is a special kind of approach to this that I think guys that, when their time's valuable, every single minute of the day is being used for treatment. To me, that's a complete differentiator. And so this is completely different than anything I've seen. And also the treatment modalities going into the hypoxic phases are different as well. And so I think time will tell. But I would say that in my time here with the cohort that I'm in, it's easier to see in other people. I have seen changes in people in the cohort, mood, personality, in the past 2.5 weeks that are marketable. And so I can see it. So that means there's probably aspects of things in me that my wife or my kids will see, or coworkers. And so that's where I'm hopeful, but that's the difference for me. Yeah, for as long as you guys have been open, for 18 months, I think you said it was, it's amazing the infrastructure you guys have put into place. The apartments that are close by, they're in the same building, are perfect. Guys are walking down, spending 2 minutes, going back up to the room, taking a nap in the afternoon if they need to. You guys have thought through a lot. It kind of reminds me of kind of the Exos model, the gold standard. If a guy comes in, this is what he's focusing on. There's nothing else. And your staff's been incredible. The way you lead your organization, you're setting the tone for your people, but you're also hiring the right people. It's not about having a bunch of ex-military guys here, but I would say that some of your staff having those life experiences and having gone through the program is really meaningful to a guy like me. And I wouldn't say skepticism, but I want that validation. And I've seen that in people that you have on staff. And, you have pros in here, and you're meeting people in different stages of life. different levels of fitness and health, different levels of symptoms. And so for your team to be able to address all of those, it's not like you're bringing a bunch of military operators in here where they're all at peak performance and then you have to get them to the next echelon or maintain. You're taking people in their 60s and guys in their 40s or 30s, and you're meeting them in the middle. And I think that's a special skill. I think that this program, your cohorts are small. And so this is like a finite resource. And so for guys to be able to access it is important. There's a lot of different treatments out there in the United States supporting veterans. The data you guys are collecting is important. And the research that you're doing is going to be important. And I think that this model scales. But in your mobile system, that's going to reach folks that don't have the time and bandwidth to travel, populations that are basically tied to a geographic area. I think it's really smart. It's really special. But I know a handful of people that want to come here that are dealing with much more than I am. And what I've seen in the people here, I think it's going to be viable for folks that are almost kind of desperate for solutions right now. So. Well, unfortunately for me, I'm working, the other half of my day. And so I'm dealing with different stresses and things that are kind of outside the control of what we're doing here. If you did this in isolation, no stressors, to get that baseline, like, hey, what is your symptomology here to here? That's more like objective data. You're dealing with a bunch of life stuff. You got kids, you got a wife, you got money problems, all the things. Those stresses, how you behave with them, maybe it's an indicator, but it's kind of like when you look in the mirror and you're losing weight and you don't see it, but somebody else sees you 4 months later and like, holy crap, you look great. I'm assuming that this is one of those events as well. And then, from some of the folks I've talked to out here is that this isn't like a temporary fix. This is something that continues to gradually improve. And so I think that there's a lot of hope in that for people going through this. And I would say that there's a lot of veterans that are desperate for treatment, for help and support. And so this is a pretty cool opportunity to do something that hasn't been adopted. And so it's cutting edge. So I'm super grateful to have gone through it. The other thing that'd be interesting to see is reaction, right? Because to me, that's an indicator of how well someone is composed, how in control they are of their behavior. And this isn't a military thing. This is a human dynamic. And so I think that going through this program, if you're reacting to stress a certain way, and I'm not saying the normal stress of life, I'm saying the big events in your life that can break you. It'd be interesting to see how people have shifted in their mindset. But there is no single solution to all your problems. I think this is a layered effect, and it's probably a pretty powerful foundation. So.